Hi, I'm Kesenya and welcome to Guiding Star Astrology. I'm your Astro Weather Girl, here with this week's Astro Weather Report. I'm going to show you how the stars are going to affect your life this week. In my videos, I use both Vedic and traditional Western techniques with tropical astrology, not sidereal astrology. I also use the traditional system of whole sign astrology for my analysis. You can use this video to the best of your advantage by listening to the introduction to understand what the week holds for you, and then going to the timestamps for your sun, moon, and rising sign to get a more personalized forecast for the week ahead. Astrology is not designed to scare you. It's designed to give you information so that you know what the good and the challenging energies in the week ahead will be, and you can therefore consciously work with them to the best of your advantage. Remember, knowledge is power. Now, there are scammers about, and so if you should receive a message from me on any platform requesting your money for a reading, know that it is a scam. Report them immediately. And now settle in and let's see what the astral skies have in store for the week ahead. Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Astro Weather Report. We are looking at a very special occurrence this week that's going to be with us for the next 5 months. But before we get to that, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to go into the draw to win a year ahead or solar return report. As you know, I give one away each month, and as we get towards the end of August, in the next video or the next Astro Weather Report, either the next one or the following one, I will be announcing the winner of the August Solar Return Report. So don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Let me know in the comments that you've done so in order to enter into the competition for August. So let's take a look at the astro weather that's occurring from the, the 26th of August through to the 3rd of September. That's the week that we're looking at ahead. The first energy that we're seeing is happening on the 27th of August. This is the Sun going opposite to Saturn. Oh, hello. So Sun here in the early degrees of Virgo opposing Saturn down here in the early degrees of Pisces. There's the Moon with Saturn. We'll talk about that in just a second as well. But we've got to ask, when we have a Sun opposition to Saturn, which happens every year, once a year, we ask, how are we embracing our own sovereignty? Are we embracing our own sovereignty? And I hope that the answer is yes. Yes, we are, if you're listening to this. But even if you are, the energy of this day, the 27th of August, could make things a bit shaky with how you rule your kingdom. You could experience difficulties with others, especially people in power positions, governmental positions or authoritative positions. They're going to impact your life in some way, or your self-esteem. Bosses, people who have a bit more say than you, a bit more, as we say here in Australia, a bit more clout than you do in some area of life. Don't be surprised also to see authority figures from the past, people that you've encountered or had a run-in before, showing up to do this. Why? Because Saturn is the planet of karma as well as an authority figure in astrological rulerships, as is the Sun. Sun is the king and Saturn is like the general, so to speak. So they're both, or the Prime Minister, I've heard him referred to as well. So don't be surprised to see karmic authority figures coming into your life. Now, also on this day, obligations and responsibilities kind of usurp our freedom and self-expression. We feel we want to put ourselves out there and express ourselves independently, but there's too much responsibility on our shoulders to be able to break free. So it can be quite a frustrating day to that extent. If you are in business with other people, if you're in business partnerships, this energy can trigger a reassessment of the arrangements that you've got. It would be wise actually to wait till the energy has blown over before making any significant changes. So keep that in mind. So that's the 27th of August. Now also on the 27th of August, we've got Mars up here moving into the sign of Libra. So there's a lot happening at the end of August, and this is one of the things that's occurring. Mars is changing signs. Now, this is considered in its fall by Western astrologers. Why? Because Mars rules the opposite sign from Libra, Aries. In the Vedic system, though, Mars just scrapes through with a sense of place here in the sign of Libra. It's not quite as drastic and bad as in Western astrology. After all, Libra is the sign of justice, and sometimes we have to fight for justice. Justice often comes after a bit of a battle in the world. So Mars is not entirely out of place in Libra in the Vedic system. Now, during this transit of Mars through Libra, we can expect to see people caught up in defending themselves, defending others, or defending their way of life. But always the aim when Mars is in Libra, the ultimate aim is peace at the core. So fighting for a just cause, fighting for the right to have peace. And God knows we need that on the planet right now. We want fairness, we want equality, and we're prepared to stage a coup to make it happen. Mars in Libra is that kind of energy. We also aren't afraid to tackle problems. We're not afraid to work on making a compromise and to deal with life's lack of harmony head on. And I know a lot of people could use this sort of energy in their personal lives, but let's hope it's also going to have a positive effect out there in mundane astrology as well. Mars is the current ruler of the North Node because the North Node is down here in Aries, and we know who rules Aries, it's Mars. So Mars is the ruler of the North Node and currently now moving through the sign that the South Node of the Moon is occupying. So what this means is for the whole duration of Mars in Libra, any conflicts, any imbalance that we encounter are likely to be karmic, and they're going to offer us the chance to rectify circumstances from the past and make amends. And then it'll be full steam ahead into our destiny and our purpose. So I actually see this transit of Mars through Libra as being a very positive one in world astrology, mundane astrology. We have the chance to rectify past mistakes and move into our destiny as Mars moves through the sign that the South Node is currently occupying while being the ruler of the North Node. Very, very interesting time it's going to be while Mars is here. Then on the 29th of August, Uranus down here, little old Uranus, not so little, bigger than us here on Earth, but Uranus is going to go retrograde from 23 degrees of Taurus and will remain retrograde for around 5 months. Now, whenever a planet, particularly an outer planet, retrogrades, we feel its energy stronger. In case of all planets that go retrograde, they're closer to the Earth physically, and therefore their energy is intensified. It's just coming at us from a closer proximity. Quite simple as that. So expect that this time of Uranus retrograde is going to bring us greater autonomy and greater individuality. Ultimately, that's the purpose of what Uranus aims to do for us in the sky. He wants us to be more autonomous. He wants us to be more individualistic. He wants us to be more liberated. He wants us to be more free. So ultimately, at the end of this 5-month transit, we're going to be in some way more liberated from restrictions and blockages, both individually and I hope collectively as well. It's my hope. I'll always err on the positive side, the hopeful side if I can. Now, it's not a bad energy to have Uranus in retrograde motion. However, for people who aren't used to being a tad rebellious with this stronger Uranian influence, it can feel somewhat uncomfortable. And anyone who's been against revolution or against sticking it to the man may just change their point of view during this retrograde phase. Something might happen that fires them up enough to say, well, maybe we do need a revolution. Maybe we do need to stick it to the man and start to fight back. Bring it on, Uranus, planet of liberation, planet of revolution. So happily, this retrograde period of Uranus could prove quite potent for overthrowing outdated hierarchies, old structures, or stuffy authoritarian types. I say bring it on. I say we need it. So Uranus retrograde is our focal energy for this week. I'm going to be breaking that down for all signs, where Uranus is retrograding in your chart and what that might mean for you over the next 5 months. But before we get there, we have a full moon in Pisces at 7 degrees of Pisces on the 31st of August. Now, this is a precious full moon, very connected to karma, very much about paying our dues now. We need to take note of what unfolds during this energy. It's going to be creating some important new structures in our life. I've done a whole video breaking this down for every single sign. And this is available on my Patreon page right now. If you want to just join up, sign up, join up. You can do so for $5 a month. And you get access to 3 videos a month, plus all sorts of extra goodies and bonuses and gifts that are available to anyone who joins my Patreon page. So do head on over there. The link's in the description below. Now, a little bit more about Pisces full moon. It's a very intuitive energy, Pisces full moon, spiritual, head in the clouds kind of energy. We feel like we're walking on air. The world seems shiny and sparkling. We can let our fantasies in, we can indulge them, because often this is the universe's way of speaking to us, guiding us, uplifting us through our dreams and our visions and our fantasies. So the full moon in Pisces can indicate, and I talk extensively about this in my Patreon video, it's all about getting messages from the divine, having some significant revelations that could change our life. There is a conjunction with Saturn, which I talk also about in this video, and that can usher in change that is more permanent and long-lasting, but it could also be stifling to our sense of fulfillment. So deep breaths, everybody. You ready for this full moon? And I will point out also that this full moon has a conjunction with the projected degree of the fixed star Deneb. Deneb is located in the constellation of Cygnus the Swan, but in projected fixed stars, he or she, Deneb, is projected onto the horoscope at around the degree of this particular full moon placement. So to find out more about how Deneb is going to be tying into this full moon and how it will affect you personally, again, visit the Guiding Star family and find out all about how it's affecting your sign. But let's move now into the energy of the week that I want to talk about. It's actually going to last for 5 months. We're talking the 29th of August. We're talking Uranus Retrograde. So, of course, Uranus is currently in Taurus. Let's begin in Taurus. All right, so obviously Uranus is going retrograde in your first house, Taurus. So you're going to feel this energy in your first house. And by the end of this 5-month retrograde period, you might have experienced some sort of big change to your image. You might have overhauled your wardrobe or your makeup or your hair or something. You might have really changed your style. I have 2 children who are Taurus rising. My son has had Uranus transit his ascendant, and my daughter hasn't had that happen yet. But my son has had that transit his ascendant, and when he did, he decided, even though he's only a teenager, he wanted to shave his hair off and go bald. So he was bald for about 6 or 8 months. And he looked quite good, I must say, as well. But certainly big change to the image, big change to how you present to the world. I know when I had Uranus transit, this is years ago, when I had Uranus transiting Pisces, my ascendant, I went platinum blonde like Marilyn Monroe. So there is always some massive change to your image when Uranus comes along through the first house. He likes to break you out of a rut and sort of shake things up, get you experimenting and trying new things. And so this is the case for anybody with like their rising degree around sort of 23, the early 20s, 20, 22, 23 degrees of Taurus. You might be experiencing this breaking free energy. By the end of 5 months, you might have suddenly, done something crazy to your image. But there's a breaking free, there's a rebelliousness, there's an independence that will be pulling you strongly at this time. Changes that come in will be instigated by you rather than by outer circumstances. You're not going to get the army telling you to get a crew cut. It's you deciding to go in and shave off all your hair or whatever. There can be periods of ostracization while Uranus is in the first house. Confusion and distrust of other people is very common. And when I experienced this years ago, I certainly sort of isolated myself a lot more as a Pisces person and learnt to sort of just be okay on my own without needing a community around me or a collective around me. And that came a lot through distrust of other people. But you will be feeling in your truth and in your own power, so you won't really mind that so much. It's not going to harm you that much. You're going to own it, own that sort of stepping aside and being unique from everybody else or detaching from everybody else in some way. But above all, it's going to be a liberating time. It's going to make you more authentic. So in the next 5 months, you're going to have experiences that sort of poke you or trigger you or lift you into being a more authentic version of yourself. There might be sudden starts, new things happen, come out of the blue, redirection you 180 degrees, and equally there can be sudden endings that come during this retrograde period as well. This transit will help you liberate yourself from addiction and entrapment type situations. If you're feeling stuck in a rut in some way or addicted to something, you can break free now with Uranus retrograding in the first house, Taurus. And when you do, you'll never go back. It will be a break for life. Done, over, finished. Very, very empowering. Alrighty, thank you, my beautiful Taurus friends. Now, moving backwards through the horoscope, we're going to be looking at Aries now. Aries rising, Aries sun, Aries moon. So, if we have Aries in a prominent position in that way, over the next 5 months, Uranus is going to liberate us and empower us with regard to second house things. So, by the end of this 5-month retrograde period, you might be feeling like that life somehow is better off with independent sources of income. So you might be saying, you know what, screw working for someone else. I'm going to start freelancing. I'm going to be my own consultant in my field. I'm going to go my own way with how you make your money. Now, this isn't a career placement, but obviously in the current Western world, we make our money from the career that we undertake. So you might be making your money in more independent ways. I remember when I went through this transit, when Uranus was in my second house, I broke out of old planning traditions, old planning. I was in the planning industry, town planning, city planning, and I broke away from that and I started doing freelance consulting in town planning, and I also was running my astrology business on the side, both of which were my own independent sources of income. Thank you, Uranus. Best thing that ever happened to me. So you might be considering that during this retrograde period. You might be pursuing that now. And if you're already doing consulting or running your own independent business of some description, you might be looking for other ways to bring in some sort of independent income that you generate yourself in a bohemian way, in a quirky way, maybe an astrological way, as is the nature of Uranus. Very much the case. There can be a lot of disruptions to stability during this retrograde period, though. Like, this is the realm of the chart that has to do with our stability. So Aries, I just need to let you know, if this happens, if suddenly you feel like you're on a roller coaster during this retrograde period, financially or materially, this is happening in order to push you into new ways of making money, as it did when I had this transit. I had the rug pulled out from under me, and Uranus often does work in that manner, and had to find new ways to generate my own income on my own. And so trust that there's a bigger picture at play here and a greater purpose at play. If you have some disruptions to your stability, get active, get busy. Don't sit back on your laurels. Find the ways that the universe is pushing you into making money on your terms. It will end up being more liberating. It will end up being more empowering. Don't be afraid. Okay, your value system can be a bit more quirky while Uranus is retrograding here. You might take on some new attitudes, new approaches, to things, like how you value art. Maybe you start to get interested in more bohemian artistic styles and musical styles rather than mainstream things, but more of an appreciation for the revolutionary, the bohemian, the quirky, the subcultures. That's food, that's clothing, that's art. Anything that's non-mainstream becomes of greater value to you under this influence. I started investing in Uranian style art, which is actually cartoon art, is considered to be Uranian style art. I started investing in a few pieces of Uranian style art when I had Uranus transiting through my second house. So that's what this retrograde period for the next 5 months might bring you, my Aries friends. All right, Pisces rising, Pisces sun, Pisces moon. You've got the full moon in your sign this month. Do check out my video on the Patreon Guiding Star family. Links in the description below. find out all about how it's going to affect you. But as for Uranus going retrograde on the 29th of August for the next 5 months, you're going to be noticing its influence most strongly in the third house. So by the end of this 5-month retrograde period, you might suddenly have discovered a whole new hobby or a whole new skill set that you want to start to utilize, that you want to enjoy. Doing a deep dive into some, perhaps not a deep dive, but exploring some talent that you've never explored before. Maybe you're getting out the woodworking tools for the first time ever, or you're starting a cross stitch and you've never done cross stitch in your life before. New hobbies, new skills, new talents. It's also a very mental placement, and you might be coming up with lots of bright new ideas during this Uranus retrograde period. New ideas that you can apply to your life in all sorts of areas. But in the case of the third house, it might be to small businesses. If you run, like I do, a small business, you might get lots of creative sort of, if I did this, then that will help me develop this. Or, lots of wonderful new ideas for business, for buying, for selling, but also for life in general. You are much more creative and solution focused when Uranus is retrograding through the third house. The mind wakes up under this influence to liberating truths as well. And my goodness me, since Uranus has been in Taurus, the third house, have I ever woken up? I thought I had woken up when I discovered astrology. I'd woken up to the reality of how the solar system worked. But I hadn't woken up by any stretch compared with how I've woken up in the last 4 years or so since Uranus moved into my third house. And that's an energy of this placement. If you have a Pisces signature, Pisces sun, Pisces moon, Pisces rising, then Uranus is moving through your third house. What that means is you are waking up right now to, like I've said, liberating truths, but the truth of what's going on out there in the world. It's like someone takes the blinders off and you can see. You can connect the dots. Things start making sense. You're seeing with more insight, more clarity as Uranus moves through here. So let me just say, Pisces, something's going to happen in the next 5 months that you'll wake up to all over again while Uranus is retrograde. You might discover some deeper truth, some more empowering piece of knowledge, or maybe let's hope that ways of liberating humanity and yourselves are revealed to you in new, fresh ways while Uranus is retrograding. Uranus retrograding in the third house can also bring or give you the ability to create unique associations and connections. This isn't really a house that has to do with large groups and networks, but it is about friendships, okay? Sort of the more small group work. So you might be, sort of not necessarily joining a small group, but you might develop a more tight-knit community of people who think like you during this Uranus retrograde period. It's also a good time, Pisces, perhaps to join a group of like-minded people with the same mission, same purpose, same agenda, perhaps. Uranus retrograde can bring difficulties with siblings. Now, that doesn't mean getting argy-bargy with your siblings necessarily, unless you're already like that already. It could get worse. But it could mean that your siblings are having a bit of a roller coaster ride, having troubled times. So be there for your siblings, reach out to them, support them as best you can, and show kindness as you are wont to do anyway. You're a Pisces person, you're hugely compassionate. So Uranus retrograde can make things a little bit tough on your siblings. Also, the really cool thing with Uranus retrograding in the third house is that you might have a very enhanced knowledge of astrology or the occult. Like your interest is piked during this time of Uranus retrograde for the next 5 months. So you might be gathering all sorts of books and reading all sorts of information and growing your astrological knowledge. This is the house of the mind, and Uranus is a planet of astrology and alternative occult interests. So get ready. You are about to discover many wonderful new things for the next 5 months, my Pisces friends. All right, Aquarius rising, sun and moon people, or moon people. For you guys, Uranus rules your sign. Uranus rules Aquarius. And for you, Uranus has been moving for the last few years through Taurus, but is about to go retrograde. It goes retrograde every year. But during this time, its energy is increased, and we notice the changes Uranus is bringing much more powerfully. So what's happening by the end of this 5-month retrograde, it's beginning on the 29th of August, by the end of this 5-month period, it can trigger, in some cases, a bit of a separation from family. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to have a big all-out fight and Barney with your family, but it can mean that you're pulling away from family in some way. Maybe you're moving to a different part of the country. Maybe you just decided, look, my family, I feel a bit heavy every time I hang around with them, so I'm just going to have a break for a while. It's just moving away from that familial influence, that traditional influence, or the tight-knit community influence. And Uranus here, when retrograde, can bring that about. Can also, I have to say, for some people it can trigger a divorce. Why is that? This has nothing to do with the 7th house relationship. Correct, it doesn't, but it will, for some people it will be making a square aspect to the descendant degree. And so when Uranus retrogrades, it puts more intense Uranian energy pressure by square onto the 7th house. And that can cause separation and divorce in a relationship sometimes. Now, usually you need more than just one signature like this to cause a separation or a divorce. Sometimes you might look to see if there's an eclipse, or if you've got a Saturn or a Jupiter moving across your descendant as well, and many other things. And of course, the more energies you have occurring at the same time, the more likelihood that something will manifest. So this in and of itself alone may not bring that about. So I don't want anyone to go panicking and running down the street with their hands flailing wildly because they're like, oh, Kesenya said I'm going to get a divorce. It is one of the various number of energies that can trigger that, but it's only one, and you need more than one for that to happen. Okay, let's move on to a different topic for our Aquarian friends. It can indicate, like I said, separation or divorce from family or relationship, but it can also manifest potentially as a relocation, usually of a massive nature. So, you might be feeling fully settled and you've got your roots down wherever you are. By the end of this 5-month period with Uranus retrograde, you might be like living on the other side of the country and you never saw it coming. You never expected it. Uranus works in surprising ways. And don't forget, I forgot to point this out, but Jupiter's not far away either. Any relocation that occurs is likely to be of a massive nature. Big impact, Jupiter with not far from Uranus, and they will be conjuncting. I think they're conjuncting while retrograde. I will be talking about that if it's going to happen at the time that it occurs. But there's going to be a potential for you to move home. If not, you might be doing a big renovation to a home. Complete fit out, new paint, new carpet, whatever, or whole new family room you're adding on, like big renovations. It is a difficult energy, therefore, to allow us to have a settled, peaceful life when it's retrograding through this area of the chart. And let's face it, Taurus wants to put the roots down. Taurus wants stability and security with home life, and you're not getting it while Uranus is retrograding here. So be prepared for that. Know that change is a constant when Uranus is retrograding, and go with the flow as best you can, my Aquarian friends. It can also, in the positive, bring a lot of liberation in relation to the place of living and to your family life. So if there are changes that come about, know that you're going to feel lighter, it's going to feel better, it's going to be like, weight off my back, breath of fresh air. Thank God I'm liberated by the changes that will come in. So exciting. I see this as exciting time, liberating time, empowering time in many ways. All right, Aquarius, thank you. Now Capricorn rising, Capricorn sun, Capricorn moon people. Well, the energy of the retrograde transit for this year of Uranus is moving through your 5th house. So by the end of this is happening on the 29th of August when Uranus is going retrograde. By the end of this 5-month retrograde period, you might have many stories to tell us about all the surprising romantic experiences you've had, either with your current lover or, if you're single, with a potential new lover or boyfriend or a girlfriend that you might meet out of the blue, sudden, unexpected romantic tete-a-tetes. Sounds like fun. Whatever occurs in that realm, it is likely to be liberating, empowering, and helping you to embrace your own authenticity, your own truth in some way. Whether the relationships last for the long term, the new relationships that come in, they may not be very long lasting, but they will liberate you, they will free you, they will empower you and surprise you in some positive way while Uranus is retrograde. And if you're in a loving partnership, you might have surprising romantic experiences that are more experimentative with your partner than you've ever experienced before. Maybe your partner's idea of a romantic afternoon might have been grabbing a beer and watching the footy with you on the couch. At the end of this Uranus retrograde period, you might find that he's bringing home bunches of roses and taking you out to a fancy dinner, or something perhaps that doesn't cost so much but is still equally as romantic and exciting. Uranus retrograde brings about these liberating romantic experiences, liberating and authentic relational experiences when Uranus is retrograding through the 5th house. So lovely. Now, for some people, this is not the case for everyone, and you will need certain other things interplaying with your natal chart, but this is one of the expressions, Uranus retrograding through the 5th house, that might bring about the conception of a child, because the 5th house has to do with children. And Uranus retrograding here can bring about a sudden, unexpected event of that nature. So if you're, having a bit of fun out there on the dating scene and not really looking for that to happen, just be careful. Make sure you dot the I's and cross the T's, shall we say, because you might end up with a surprise that you weren't looking for. Uranus retrograding, full of shocks in the house of to do with children. There, in another sense, this is also an energy, a time, the next 5 months, when you might notice that you get an increased interest in quirky creativity and quirky art. So you might be attending like a lowbrow art exhibition, because Uranus is certainly not highbrow art, but lowbrow, the pinstriping on the rockabilly culture vehicles and that sort of thing. You might go to an exhibition of that sort of thing while Uranus is retrograde. Or you might start to participate in quirky art endeavors yourself, or creative endeavors yourself. And that sounds like a lot of fun. Whatever it is, it's going to be about you expressing yourself in an authentic, liberating, real way that feels empowering and freeing and lightening your self-expression up in a big way while Uranus is retrograde. So, very exciting times for my lovely Capricorn friends. Sagittarius rising, Sagittarius sun, or Sagittarius moon people. The energy of a retrograding Saturn is occurring for you in the 6th house, which is Taurus. Now, this energy begins on the 29th of August and will conclude in 5 months' time. And by the end of that 5-month retrograde period, you might have lost some weight. Now, that won't happen for everyone, but some of you might lose some weight because you get healthy, or you liberate your diet or your exercise plan in some way. Uranus wants you to be authentic and true. You find the right exercise that just really works with your lifestyle and what brings you a sense of fun and pleasure. You find that exercise, or you find that diet, or you find that eating pattern that really works for you. Uranus retrograding through the 6th house. But watch your health, because some people may lose weight because their health is struggling. Now, of course, you need certain indicators in your chart that are pointing to health issues. But while Uranus is retrograding there, do watch your health, do eat healthy, do get enough exercise, do get enough sleep and rest. It's very important. And it might be harder to do so, I've got to say, while Uranus is retrograding here, because Uranus in retrograde in the 6th house wants to shake up your routine. So if you've had let's say a routine of staying up until 4 a.m. playing computer games and then going to bed for 3 hours or 4 hours and then getting up and going on with your day, Uranus might be saying, hey, that's not empowering for you. That's not liberating for you. That's going to destroy you after a while. So he shakes that routine up, and you might have a night where you've got to head to bed at 8 p.m. and get a full night's sleep. And so there's this shaking up of routines, but always with Uranus, it's for the purpose of empowering you, liberating you, and helping you be authentic and true to what your soul really needs. So expect to have some liberation and change to your routines while Uranus retrogrades here. There can also be sudden changes to your work life. This is the house of our daily work that pays the bills. I'm excited by this because it can indicate that while Uranus is retrograding here, you find a job that feels more empowering, that feels more liberating, that helps you pay the bills and liberates you from the problems of the sixth house, which are things like debt, which are things like loans and things like that, and credit cards and stuff like that. So Uranus retrograding, very promising for bright new innovations for your work life, new opportunities for a work situation, and as I've already alluded to, health and routines can go through a liberating process as well. So expect that your daily life is going to look very, very different by the end of this 5-month period, my Sagittarius friends, as you are liberated in all these everyday areas: health, diet, work life. And of course, sixth house is connected to money. It's not a financial house per se, but it is connected to money in that it is a house of debt and bills and things like that. So there might be some liberation that comes your way with regard to debt and bills as well, due to the liberating changes that Uranus might bring in your work life. Thank you, my Sagittarius friends. Now, Scorpio rising, Scorpio sun, Scorpio moon people. Well, Uranus is going to be retrograding in the 7th house of your chart, Scorpio. Now, let me just hold this astro wheel nice and straight for everybody. Okay, so when we have, this is starting on the 29th of August, it's going to last for 5 months. By the end of this 5-month period, this 5-month retrograde period, if you're single, somebody may have come into your life to shake you out of a rut. Or if you're in a relationship, someone might have come into your life to shake you out of a rut in some way as well. It could be a relational shaking out of a rut, but it could even be, maybe you were in a rut with a business situation. Maybe you're in a rut with how you felt about life and, life's not worth living and I'm so depressed and it sucks and blah, blah, blah. This is the house of other people that affect us. And with Uranus retrograding there, someone might come into your life that snaps you out of that depressing life sucks kind of a mood, or life sucks kind of an attitude. So we could see relationships shaken up by somebody coming in and changing everything. We could see our relational status shaken up. Maybe we were single before Uranus went retrograde. By the end of the 5 months, we may not be anymore, Scorpio. We could also see our attitudes to life and the world shaken up in a positive, liberating way by somebody we encounter during this next 5-month period as well. Relationships change us in a dynamic way, and relationships themselves will change as a result of Uranus retrograding here, particularly if Uranus happens to be retrograding across your descendant degree, which will be sort of in the the early 20s, 20, 21, 22, 23 of Taurus. So it can be a work relationship, a personal relationship, a business relationship. It can be friendship, but no matter the relationship, the changes that come in, they're going to happen fast, quick, and overnight almost. You go from being in one state of relational mindset at one instant, and it's over in a second the next, or something changes instantly. I've experienced that on a couple of occasions when Uranus has made certain aspects in my life, and you can just turn on a dime, as they say. Uranus, though, I must just share with anyone who's single out there, if a relationship comes in, it's unlikely to be something that will last for the long term, unless you've got maybe Saturn interacting with this Uranus placement in some way. And by that I mean your natal Saturn making an interaction with this Uranus, maybe by trine or opposition or conjunction or something like that. then a relationship would be more likely to last. But Uranus is not known for its longevity, but it is known for its quick and sudden shocks. So it can bring in a relationship, it will change your life, and then it's gone. That's how Uranus goes, quick and fast, like flicking an electric switch. Long distance relationships are also common, so that could be a business relationship that's long distance, or a romantic relationship that's long distance, or also on again, off again relationships are common with this Uranus placement. And while Uranus is retrograding, even more strongly this effect can be felt. I said before, it's like a light switch. That's because Uranus rules electricity. And wherever he is wherever we're getting this effect of on again, off again, on again, off again. So your relationships can be a bit hit, start and stop and start and stop with this combination as well. There might even be some breaking of relationship taboos that occur. The energy of Uranus wants to experiment, try new things, do things it's never done before. And here it is in the house to do with our partnerships. And so you might be trying a whole new business partnership that you never thought you would, explore before. You might be trying a marriage or a relational situation that's very experimentative, something that you've never thought you'd try before. Your sex life can get very experimentative while Uranus is retrograding through the 7th house as well. So prepare for the unexpected, my friends, relationally, because that's where it's at for my Scorpio viewers. All right, Libra rising, Libra sun, Libra moon people. Well, Uranus happens to be transiting Taurus, which is your 8th house. Now, let me get that straight. Uranus is going retrograde on the 29th of August and will be retrograde for the next 5 months. And by the end of this 5-month retrograde period, you might find that you've had some sort of sudden windfall, sudden inheritance, or sudden bankruptcy, because the 8th house is a monetary house, Libra, and it's very much connected to the finances or the financial influences on us of other people. So grandma leaves you a ton of money, boom, changes your life completely. Or, your business partner runs off with all the funds and you're left bankrupt. Uranus in Taurus. Somebody else's actions affect our financial situation. So that's one of the manifestations that can occur with Uranus here in the 8th house. Uranus in the 8th house, it's quite a potent combination. I've got this natally. It is, it's a financial house, and the 8th house is fast, sudden changes. And Uranus is so at home in the 8th house because what's Uranus? Fast, sudden changes. So put these two together. Here's Uranus in the 8th house by transit and now retrograde, even stronger than ever. And you can have fast, sudden changes that leave your head spinning and reeling. And that can be a financial thing, as I've already said. It can also be bad habits. You can change bad habits so easily now with Uranus retrograding over the next 5 months. If you're addicted to smoking or chocolate or, porn or computer games or whatever it happens to be, this is your time to quit and make life changes, because whatever Uranus cuts out, it's gone forever. You have the power now with Uranus retrograding here to really change your life, and in a quick way, not dragging it out and, rehab or whatever for months on end. No, it's like, right off, like they say in Seinfeld, pull that thing right off. So you can change your life completely through your own instigation and get rid of some bad habits. And what is Uranus? It's about liberation. It's about freedom. It's about being authentic and true. So very exciting in that sense, Libra, for anybody who needs a bit of support in that way from the universe. It's also a good time to invest in Uranian things. What are Uranian things? Well, Uranian things are alternative politics for a start. So get behind those alternative politicians, everyone. Even if you don't have Uranus transiting the 8th house, everyone should be getting behind the alternative politicians, and certainly not the mainstream. Electronics are also Uranian as well. The internet. This is a great time while Uranus is retrograde in the 8th house. Get your website sorted and put it out there on the internet. If you're into astrology and you want to invest in astrology, this is a great time to do that. You'll get a lot out of your investment if you do so while Uranus is retrograding in the 8th house. Come and join my Patreon family, or do your own study through the Royal Stars Academy. Links are in the description below if you want to do that. But this is a really great time while Uranus is retrograding in the 8th house for you to invest in 8th house or Uranian things. Astrology, electronics, alternative politics, the internet, to name a few. So Libra, you got your work cut out for you. Alrighty, moving along. Virgo rising, Virgo sun, Virgo moon people. The energy of a retrograding Uranus will be felt for you in the auspicious 9th house, Virgo. That is where Uranus is retrograding. Now, Uranus goes retrograde on the 29th of August this year and will stay retrograde for about 5 months. And by the end of this 5-month retrograde period, you might notice that you have a changed dynamic with your father. So things might become more authentic, more true, more liberated with a father or a father figure, some benevolent figure that's influential in your life. Another way this might manifest is a separation with the father. Maybe dad moves into an old age care home, or dad moves to the other side of the country to marry a new woman or something, and you're left on the other side of the country and you're just not close together anymore. So there's changes to the dynamic of a relationship with a father figure or a benefactor, person of inspiration, so to speak. There can also be disruptions to education. So my Virgo friends, if you are studying something at the moment, I don't know, at university or some higher level education, there could be some, it's not restrictions because that's not Uranus energy, but there could be some changes. Maybe your course changes, your lecturers change, and you've got to get used to some new lecturer or new tutor, that kind of thing. Disruptions, Uranus's disruptions to your course of education in some way. This transit, though, can be very good for people who are in Uranian careers. This is a house of blessing. So if you are in a career to do with electronics or the internet, if you're an astrologer, all these sort of Uranian ruled things, you can have a lot of blessing at this time. Things can flourish, things can feel supported, things go well for you under this influence of Uranus retrograde in the 9th house. So that's a blessing for many people watching this, I know. But if you are in a bit of a rut, if you feel stuck, Uranus retrograde in the 9th house indicates it's actually a beneficial time for you to travel, to go to foreign countries and explore new ideas, new philosophies, new beliefs in some way. Because if anything could pull you out of a rut and make you feel freer and lighter and more liberated and more in alignment with your own truth, it's doing that while Uranus is retrograding. Because Uranus retrograde will allow you to tap into freedom and liberation through those 9th house mechanisms of travel. Also, you could start doing some sort of higher learning. If it was in a Uranian field, you'd do very, very well indeed. And it too would be liberating for you. Never been a better time, Virgo, to come and study at the Royal Stars Academy with me because of that. But you could also study electronics, you could study IT, you could study politics or alternative politics, that sort of thing, which are connected to Uranus anyway. You might find that this is an energy, Uranus retrograding in the 9th house, where things manifest suddenly and out of the blue in your favor, for your benefit. Why? Because Uranus in the 9th house trines your ascendant sign. So there's blessing that comes your way all of a sudden. You didn't expect it, and there it is. It's beautiful, beautiful energy where there's change, but it's change of a positive variety that lifts you up, that empowers you and helps you to live a life that feels more authentic, more true, more in alignment with the truth of who you are. Wow, how exciting, Virgo. Okay, Leo rising, Leo sun, and Leo moon. Well, for we Leo people, we have Uranus retrograding through our 10th house, the 10th house of career. Uranus goes retrograde on the 29th of August and will be retrograde for 5 months. So by the end of this 5-month retrograde period, you might have suddenly quit your job or changed jobs or moved into a position in your current job that feels more authentic, true, more in alignment with what you really want to be, who you really want to be on this planet. Also more in alignment with the reputation that you want to develop. Also more in alignment with the legacy that you want to leave to everybody who comes after you. This is about becoming truer in your public roles, more authentic, more real in your public roles. I feel that a lot of you Leo people, you're inclined this way anyway because you're Leo, you're very autonomous and independent. But I feel that many Leo people will be creating a dream career that is very authentic and real for them. That might be working independently, or it might be moving into a new position for a company or something like that. But Uranus retrograde gives you the energetic empowerment from the universe to have that happen and see that happen. So some of you Leos might receive a very quick rise to fame. So when Uranus moves through the 10th house, you can, have a period, maybe for 5 months, when you're a sudden YouTube sensation, and things then die down a little bit afterwards. Or, what do they call it? The reality TV, where you're suddenly famous, and then the moment the reality TV show ends, nobody's ever heard of you and they've forgotten completely all about you. That's the kind of energy of Uranus. Whatever quick rise to fame you receive with Uranus retrograding here, it can be over just as quickly, because Uranus is like the electricity switch. It's on again, off again, on again, off again. It doesn't last. It's not enduring, but it can be quick and powerful and, really surprising. So you could have a real rise to fame, a rocket launch to some sort of fame and recognition, my beautiful Leo friends. This is also, as we know, a house of leadership. And Uranus retrograde, Uranus is very connected to alternative politics, the revolution, it's the energy of the revolutionary and people who want liberty, equality, and truth. Shouldn't we all want this? Hello. But you Leo people, it's like you've been given the baton. Here's the baton, Leo, run. You can become, while Uranus is retrograde, the revolutionary leader of humanity. I mean, you Leo people are born leaders anyway, but never has there been a better time for you to step up to the plate and say, hey, let's change this world. This is the energy, Uranus retrograde in the 10th house, of being a revolutionary leader and increasing your social stature. So for all of you Leos, and I'm probably speaking to myself here as much as anyone, I'm a Leo sun, it may well be time that we took a stand for something over the next 5 months, something very revolutionary, and call out to the masses. Uranus rules the masses. Call out to the masses, hey, it's time for change. It's time for authentic, liberating leadership instead of the kind of leadership we've got at the moment. But I won't jump on my soapbox just yet about all that. You'll know what I mean. Okay, that's about all I've got to share for our Leo friends, but that's pretty exciting. Cancer rising, Cancer sun, Cancer moon, people. The energy of a retrograde Uranus is affecting your 11th house. Now, Uranus goes retrograde on the 29th of August this year and will stay retrograde for about 5 months. So by the end of this 5-month Uranus retrograde period, if you've been feeling stuck beforehand, then lo and behold, you're going to break out of a rut over the next 5 months, and it will usually happen by you getting involved in some group activity or like a political movement or some movement that's inspiring and uplifting to other people. These are 11th house things. By being involved in 11th house things, you can totally turn your world around and get out of that rut that you might have been feeling that you were in. Very exciting. Uranus is the energy of the revolutionary, energy of liberation, energy of freedom. And when he's retrograde, he's closer to Earth, so stronger, more powerful. So it's time, I think we're going to see, Cancer, a lot of alternative political movements now that it might pop up in the next 5 months. And it's time to join with them or to network with them or to, encourage them or get behind them in some way while Uranus is retrograding here in your 11th house. This is also a time, and I mentioned networks a moment ago, where you might experience some changes in your networks or changes in your friendship circles in some way that can grow and expand your networks quite significantly while Uranus is retrograde. You might start off with one group of friends at the beginning of this retrograde period, and by the end of the retrograde period, your network is blown out to be like huge. So that can happen too with Uranus retrograding here. Same goes for your earnings. Very pleased to say, Cancer, because this is the house of rewards and gains. And Uranus can give you sudden rewards, sudden gainfulness when he is retrograding. Things you didn't see coming, get offered a job or a position that pays way more than you ever imagined that it would. There can be real leaps forward in your gainfulness while Uranus retrogrades through the 11th house. You might also find, Cancer, that when it comes to being inspired and uplifted, receiving support from benefactors, that this is coming through your friends now. You're inspired by your friends. You're uplifted through your friends. You're inspired by like-minded people. You get uplifted in life by like-minded people in some way. And you might find that during Uranus's retrograde period, like-minded people and new friends just keep coming out of the woodwork. They're everywhere. So very exciting in that sense, Uranus retrograding through the 11th house, bringing greater authenticity and truth to your friendships, being real with your networks, not just networks for the sake of networking, but real connections that mean something, real connections that feel foreordained, feel like they're, like-minded, like kindred spirit kind of networks and connections with people. Very, very empowering in that way, Cancer. And finally, my Gemini rising, Gemini sun, Gemini moon people. Well, you've waited till lucky last. Thank you, my Gemini friends. The energy of Uranus retrograde is going to be affecting your 12th house. So, gather my words. Uranus goes retrograde on the 29th of August and will stay retrograde for 5 months. And by the end of this 5-month period, you might feel completely liberated, like you've broken out of bondage or you've broken out of isolation. Have you been feeling in a rut in any area of your life, Gemini? This retrograde period can be so empowering for you more than any other sign to break out of that feeling of stuckness, of restriction, of being held back in some way. That can be very, very empowering because, the 12th house is a house that we often connect with things like exile, loneliness. These are the shadow side, of course. And if you've been feeling lonely, if you've been feeling on the outer, if you've been feeling exiled, then Uranus is retrograding here to say, hey, no more. Let's liberate ourselves from that energy of bondage. Not only that, but I do think Gemini, and never is anyone more geared to be doing this than a Gemini person, but you can help others break out of their own lonely rut or isolated exile kind of energy as well. Gemini is such a friendly energy. They're very socially oriented. They're people persons, as you would well know if you're listening to this. And so this retrograde Uranus here means that not only can you break out of that sort of feeling, but you can help others too by connecting with them, socializing, being there for them, supporting them, just being your beautiful social Gemini self. Uranus retrograde can bring that around. You might also find this is the realm of the chart that has to do with past life memories and past life personality traits, things that we've brought over from previous incarnations. Now, not everybody I know believes in reincarnation. And if you don't, then the standard line in astrology is look at the first part of this life and the influences on your character in the first part of this life. Maybe you were raised by certain types of parents or something like that, and that's had an impact on who you now are. I do adhere to the past life ideology or belief system. So for me, if I find that I have a fear of spiders and I never had a bad experience with a spider in my childhood, where's that coming from? Why am I afraid of spiders? Well, could be a past life trait that's coming through. A fear of water, a fear of drowning, a fear of heights, whatever. This is often seen through the planetary influences or the sign influences in our 12th house. So wherever you have past life hang-ups or personality traits or, psychological stuff going on, this Uranus retrograde here in the 12th house can break you out of those ruts, if you like, or those old habits or grooves that you've gotten into that have been hung over from a past life. So if you're afraid of spiders, if you've got arachnophobia, something might happen where that arachnophobia goes out the door and you lose that fear, you lose that psychological damage, if you like. So it can be very, very healing to have Uranus retrograding through the 12th house. I remember, I'm going to give an example of this. It doesn't necessarily pertain to a Uranus transit that I was having at the time, but I used to be very afraid of snakes, have dreams about snakes. Probably it may have come from my early childhood where my father was very anti-snakes, being an Australian farmer. And then one night in more recent times, like probably 3 or 4 years ago, instead of a nightmare about a snake, I had a dream where I was facing a snake, and we regarded one another and looked at one another, and neither of us was afraid, neither of us panicked, and the snake just went on his way. And ever since then, I haven't been quite so hung up about snakes or fearful of snakes. And that's the kind of thing that can occur while you have a Uranus retrograde in the 12th house. Why? Because 12th house is dreams. 12th house is dreams that we can have that set us free from our karmic baggage, which I've described here. So you might have a dream where there's a liberation of some sort that occurs, or you might have an experience or an encounter or meet a person, an energy that you recognize from a past life where it liberates you. That's what Uranus is here to do. Liberate, set you free, help you live more authentically and break you out of those past life traumas, let's say. It can be, having just talked about dreams, it can be very disruptive to your sleep having Uranus retrograde. So get ready for that, my beautiful Gemini friends. Have sort of maybe a book by your bed that you can switch on the light and have a read if you wake up in the middle of the night and can't get back to sleep. That kind of thing. Uranus here can give erratic sleep patterns when he's retrograding through the 12th house. And sometimes erratic because in your sleep, you're doing the psychological work. You mightn't even remember the dream in the morning, but there might be some healing that's taking place to unravel a few old knots from the past in your psyche. So that's what I'm getting for all of the signs, as Uranus will be retrograding for the next 5 months through the sign of Taurus. I hope this video has been a blessing to you, and I look forward to sharing more wonderful astrology with you next week in the Astro Weather Report. I'll catch you then.